Hello, grade 12s. How are you? Today, once again, we are continuing the simultaneous equation. If you have not watched the first video, please, I suggest you watch it. This is where we reached x squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 0. Then, I said there are two ways of answering this, using the factoring method or the quadratic. We are going to learn both. To use the factor method, you find two numbers which when you multiply you get negative 3, and when you add you should get plus 2. So if you check, minus 1 times 3 will give us negative 3. Then minus 1 plus 3 is going to give us 2. So these are the two factors. So it means x minus 1 is equal to 0. So if I transpose, I'm going to get x is equals to 1. Or x plus 3 is equal to 0. If I transpose, I'm going to get minus 3. Then we need to substitute into our formula, into the y value. What is the y value? Let me show you here at the beginning. Remember, we said equation 1 is equal to minus x minus 2. So we substitute into it. We are going to substitute 1 into minus x. So when you see minus x, you are going to put, or when you see x, you are going to put what? 1 there. So this is our minus. And instead of writing this x, you write 1 minus 2. Then when you simplify this, you are going to get minus 3. So y is equals to minus 3. Then the other one, we are going to substitute minus 3 for x. So this is our minus. Then we are going to have minus 3, then minus 2. When you simplify this, you are going to get 1. Another way of answering the same question is using the quadratic formula. So this is the equation, quadratic equation. Then you substitute it into the formula. Remember, our formula was minus b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Alright, let me show you the formula. It's at the top here. This is the formula. This one. So this formula, let me bring it here. This formula, which is this side. So what is our a? Our a, we are starting with b. What is our b? Our b is 2. So you substitute it here into the formula. Okay, let's use this one. So here, this is our minus. And what is our b? Our b is what? This 2. Plus or minus, our b is what? This 2 squared minus 4. Your a is what? There is invisible 1 here. Then your c is what? Minus 3 over 2. Your a is what? 1. And when you simplify using your calculator, let's use our calculator. Remember, we are still learning how to use the calculator. So you first press this for the numerator and the denominator. Then you have your minus 2 plus your square root, 2 squared minus 4, 1 minus 3, then over 2a. When you simplify this, you are going to get 1. There are 2 equations, 2 answers. So the other one is going to be, instead of deleting the whole equation, what you need to do is you move your cursor back, you move it back, then you delete the plus because it's plus or minus and we started with plus. Then you type minus. So this is going to give us minus 3. So these are the 2 values for x. Then we need to find the y values. So you have, remember we solved for y to be minus x minus 2. So we are going to substitute this 1 into this equation. So you have your minus 1 minus, then your x is 1 minus 2, which is going to give us minus 3. Then the next one is minus 3. Your x is 3. Where is it? Let me show you. Remember we found 2 values for x, so we are using this one also. So your x is what? Minus 3. So minus, this is the minus, your x is minus 3, then minus 2. And this, when you press on the calculator, you are going to get what? 1. Okay, so we have solved for x and y. Then the next question says prove that the equation this has rational roots for all rational values of g. And to do this one, you know, for it to have rational roots, the discriminant must be a perfect square. What's the discriminant? The discriminant is the number under the square root. If you take this square root, the number under the square root, which is b squared minus 4ac, is the discriminant. So this value is the discriminant. Let me show you the formula. This one, b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. So for it to be a perfect square, for it to have rational values, the discriminant must be what? A perfect square. So how are we going to answer that? We need to, what's a perfect square? That is the question. Perfect squares are numbers that when you multiply it by itself, a number that you obtain when you multiply a number by itself. For instance, 1 times 1 is 1, so 1 is a perfect square. 2 times 2 is what? 4, so 4 is a perfect square. 3 times 3 is what? 9, 9 is a perfect square. 4 times 4 is what? 16, 16 is a perfect square. Alright, so for it to have a rational root, the number under the square root, which is the discriminant, must be what? A perfect square. Good. So how are we going to do that? The first thing we need to do is you write the equation, then this value, you write it in the form a squared plus b x plus c. So let me indicate to you for you to see what we are talking about here. Now this one, remember the general quadratic formula is x squared plus let me repeat here. The general quadratic formula is ax squared plus bx plus c is equals to 0. This is the general quadratic formula. Alright, so here we need to express this one in that form. How are we going to express that? If you check this, I have my 6x squared is already out. But if you check this and this, there is x here, there is x here. They look alike. So I can factor x out, which is this one. Then if I factor x out, I'm going to have 2j minus 3, which is this. So this one is going to represent b. Then this minus j is going to represent what, c. So if we express this in that form, your a is going to be what? This 6. Your b is going to be what? 2j minus 3. And your c is going to be what? Minus j. Then remember I said we are dealing with the discriminant. So here the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac must be a perfect square. So you substitute into the discriminant. What is your a? Your a is this one, and your b is this. So we start with b. Your b is 2j minus 3 squared minus 4. Your a is 6. C is minus j. And if you expand this, you need to write it again in this form for us to expand. So this is going to multiply that to give us 4j squared. This will multiply that to give us minus j. This will multiply that to give us minus 6j. And this will multiply that to give us what? Plus j. Then you have your 24j. Then if you simplify this, we'll still have our 4j squared minus 6 minus 6j plus 24j. They are like terms, so it's going to give us what? 12j. Okay, it's a long time we use our calculator. Let's press this on our calculator, assuming you are working. Okay, so you have your minus 6j minus 6 plus 24, and that's going to give us what? 12j. Then plus this 9. So we are going to have that one. But this is a perfect square. How do you know? Now this, we can write it in this form. How? Remember the first one I said you can either use the factor method or the quadratic formula. Using the factor method, two numbers, which one you multiply you get 9, and when you add them you should get 12. Alright, so how are you going to do that? This 3 times 2 is what? 6. Are we together? Then 2 times 3 is also what? 6. So 6 plus 6 is going to give us 12j. Is that okay? Then 3 times 3 is going to give us what? 9. How did we get this 4? It's 2 times 2. It gives us what? 4j squared. So this, we can express it in this form to give us a perfect square. This is a perfect square. Remember I said a perfect square is a number when you multiply by itself, it gives you the number that you get when you multiply a number by itself. So like 2 times 2, 4. So 4 is a perfect square. So like this times this, which is that one. So the whole of this is what? Is a perfect square. Since it's a perfect square, we can say that the discriminant has a rational root. Okay. See you once again. Bye.